All right, what's up, everybody? My name is Blue Drake. If you recognize my face, cool. If not, well, then hey, I'm the guy that makes the videos that maybe you sometimes watch on this channel. There's a lot of big things that are happening this month, and I was kind of thinking about making a big deal out of it and having a big, flashy trailer and stuff, but then I realized it honestly probably just makes more sense to make a straightforward video where I can just be candid with you all of all the things that are going on and how I hope you will react to those things. For those of you who do not know, in 5 days, the game that I've been working on is going to be featured in Steam Next Festival. If you don't know what that is, it's like a big festival on Steam where they showcase all of the new upcoming games, and our game is going to be one of those games. That's pretty cool. But the cooler thing is that as soon as that festival is done, which is February 15th, our game is going to be coming out completely for free for everyone in the entire world. It is going to be on Steam. You do not have to pay anything to play it. And even though the game is still not completely done yet, we're going to be releasing in Steam Early Access, so there's still a lot of features and there's a lot of stuff that we want to continue to do with it. I want to talk a little bit more about what our game stands for and what I think it has the potential to become if enough people continue supporting it. Now, previously, I already mentioned that the game is going to be free, but this is not the kind of game where it's like, hey, it's going to be free to play, but you still have to buy skins and you have to pay money to get NFTs or God knows what. In fact, the best way that I think I could compare our game's business model to another business model would be to compare our game to something like Wikipedia. I feel like Wikipedia is the perfect example of a free service that is provided by still a company, but is supported almost entirely, not just by donations, but also by people, the general public, coming together to contribute and make Wikipedia better. We want to do that, but as a game. So if you want to be a part of that whole mission, obviously you can go and check us out on Steam, links down in the description. You can be a part of that whole community. But I want to talk a little bit more about how that is going to work for our project. Obviously, Operation Harsh Doorstop is free. You can download it, you can play it, you don't have to pay a dime. But what is also going to be completely free is the source development kit that we have released that you can download and you can develop anything you want on top of our project. Also completely for free. Now, our project is built on Unreal Engine. So when you download the source development project files, it's going to be a version of Unreal Engine. Upon this, you can make really whatever you want. And I think there's some people that really underestimate what you can do with even the existing version of our project's completely open SDK. Now, the way that our development works is basically we just have these open project files out there, and whoever makes the coolest stuff, we slowly bring them onto the core team. And as long as they want to contribute to the core project and they want to be a part of making the project better, whatever stuff that they were working on, as long as they want to contribute it, will slowly start becoming a part of the core project. That's how we've basically developed everything in the game so far. The weapons, the optics, the vaulting system, everything has been made from people who originally started volunteering on the team and then slowly became a part of the core team as they just started contributing more and more. Once we release our game on Steam, and we have the ability to take advantage of Steam Workshop, where now you can just subscribe instantaneously to anything that anybody makes with the SDK anywhere. I feel like that process of having people contribute and making the core game better is just going to explode. And with all of that said, I now want to kind of talk about the more political impact that a game like ours could probably have on the industry if we pull this off. And there's even some concerns that I have that I want to talk a little bit about in this video, because while personally, this project just makes me feel super enthusiastic, almost enlightened by working with the community and creating something where everybody comes together and just builds a cumulative project that we all contributed to. I mean, that's almost spiritual for me. I mean, I love that. I can't get enough of that feeling. But I feel like just the political consequences of making a game like this also makes us a threat. And in my opinion, all criticism is good criticism, at least in one way or another. But that's another reason why I think it makes sense to make this video and just be candid about some of this stuff. Because I feel like we catch a lot of criticism and a lot of flack that maybe other studios wouldn't get just because of what we stand for and what the consequences of us succeeding might be. So there's a handful of things that I think are really important to bring up before we launch the game on Steam. The first thing is I've seen a number of people complaining about how servers are going to be handled when we launch the game. There's a number of people, I mean, usually just random people from the comments section or otherwise, who have confronted me about this, demanding, hey, how are you going to afford to pay for all of the multiplayer servers so that way every single person can play the game in multiplayer when the game comes out? And the answer to this question, and I guess an answer that kind of makes people mad sometimes, is I'm not going to do that. And the reason I'm not going to do that is because Operation Harsh Doorstop is a free game where you can do whatever you want. But part of doing whatever you want includes hosting your own servers. And this used to be the standard when I grew up, back in the day of Battlefield 2 and stuff like that. It was expected for you to host your own servers. And I feel like giving that up and being okay with the studios hosting our servers for us has really backfired, and we have ended up paying for that in a lot of ways that I don't think most people anticipated, either by having to pay microtransactions or having to install additional launchers and making accounts on stuff that you don't want to make accounts on, or even just things as simple as like the studios shutting the servers down when the game's not profitable anymore and you can just straight up not play it. Games that host servers for you are also the games that make you pay for it in some other way. So when our game launches, yes, you will have to pay for your own servers. And I do not think that that is a bad thing, but if there's anyone that is confused on that matter, that is absolutely going to be the case. If we have 10,000 people and you all want to play the game multiplayer because it's free and we don't have microtransactions, you got to buy your own servers. If you're mad about that, I don't know what to tell you. Now, you can still play the game in single player, and that's a big reason why we have made it so Operation Harsh Doorstop fully supports single player. You can play offline. You can also install whatever additional maps or mods or anything of that nature that you want to install and play it offline, just like a game such as Ravenfield. But if you want to play in multiplayer, you're going to have to purchase your own servers. And I think if people are going to immediately react to that by saying, oh, well, if you have to pay for your own servers, the game's going to die. If that's the case, then we're all doomed anyways, because I think that's what a lot of these studios that are pushing microtransactions and all of this other stuff on everybody for are hoping you're going to say, oh, well, that's too much effort, so never mind. I'm going to go back to playing all of the games that we constantly complain about doing all the things that we hate, because they run servers for us. But if you look at other successful community-led projects, I would say FiveM, for one, or even Garry's Mod, I feel like those communities have thrived off of self-hosted server infrastructures. And that is what Operation Harsh Doorstop is built to be like from the ground up. That is why Operation Harsh Doorstop is a modding first priority free game with self-hosted servers. And I hope that if we attract enough people who are willing to put in that kind of effort, just as they have for Garry's Mod or FiveM, for a free project like this, I think that there's a lot of potential for that to explode and to be its own ecosystem. That's what we're really pushing for. Now, we are a donation-funded project. We have Patreon supporters who help cover our expenses. We have supporters on Discord, and even when we launch the game, you're going to be able to donate directly on Steam. I would say, again, very similar to a business model like Wikipedia, or maybe even also similar to a business model of your standard streamer. The whole base product is free, but if you want to donate, maybe get some behind-the-scenes stuff or whatnot, such as that, you can. With that said, our development progress is limited by the funding that we have. If we have more funding, we can get more done. If we have less funding, we can't get as much done as fast. And there's been a number of people who have complained that our development progress is not as fast as the progress that other studios make on their games. And unfortunately, there's two answers to this question. The first answer to this question is, well, of course that's the case. I mean, just like I said before, with a smaller budget, we definitely can't make as much progress as fast. But the second answer to that accusation, in many cases, which is really frustrating, is that that is actually just straight up not true at all. In many cases, not only are we absolutely keeping pace with the development progress that other studios are making on completely commercial, fully priced games, but furthermore, sometimes we are actually also exceeding the pace of development that other studios are making on fully commercial, fully priced games. And it is odd to me how there's many people out there still trying to say that we're not making fast enough progress compared to these fully funded studios, when not only is there the obvious excuse that we're a donation-funded studio and that has certain limitations, but in addition to that, we are actually keeping pace with development compared to these fully funded studios. If anything, in some cases, we're actually exceeding their pace of development. And I actually think that this goes back to why, if we succeed, this project could be so much of a threat. Because in my opinion, not only do I think community-based development is the right thing to do, I actually think it results in better projects and, if managed properly, can develop things faster and better. If you look at the entire Linux community and how that has challenged the Windows operating system, I would say that Linux has had a profound impact on the operating system development community, and in some ways has absolutely surpassed Windows. And that was developed as an open source project by community members. Now, our game, Operation Harsh Doorstop, is obviously a first-person shooter. I would say a first-person shooter that is more influenced from the tactical shooter series of games than otherwise. But for anyone that is discovering Operation Harsh Doorstop for the first time, I actually think that it's important to not really look at it as a first-person shooter. Yes, it does have a first-person shooter form of gameplay as its base, but the fact that it is so modifiable and so open means that that is just the starting point. And in the same way that FiveM and Garry's Mod have slowly but completely transformed those games into something completely new, I foresee a similar process taking place with Operation Harsh Doorstop, especially since it's based on Unreal Engine and you can theoretically turn it into whatever you want. And I mean whatever. You want to create a real-time strategy game? You can. You want to create a third-person shooter? You want to create a first-person shooter? You want to create solitaire in Operation Harsh Doorstop? Boom. That is all completely possible. It takes time and effort, but we have provided you the tools to do all of those things. Now, with that said, I think there is still somewhat of a misunderstanding when some people look at Operation Harsh Doorstop and what it is built to be. Yes, it is a tactical shooter, and I think we absolutely intend to make it the best tactical shooter that it can possibly be, which will take time and will take effort. But at the same time, that is not the only objective for Operation Harsh Doorstop. And I think a lot of people that look at the project can't see the forest for the trees, which for anyone who I guess is like European or something and doesn't know what that idiom is, it's like you just can't really see the big picture. Yes, it is a tactical shooter, but in the same way that Grand Theft Auto 5 is like a game that you run around and hijack cars, that's not what FiveM is all about. FiveM isn't a carjacking game. It is an entire platform that opens people up to create whatever experiences they want, utilizing a carjacking simulator as a starting point. Operation Harsh Doorstop is the same concept, but instead of using a carjacking simulator as a starting point, we're using a tactical shooter as a starting point. Why are we utilizing a tactical shooter as a starting point? Well, there's a number of reasons. First off, I like tactical shooters. But second off, I feel like realistic shooters incentivize creating realistic mechanics. So realistic ballistic systems, realistic movement, realistic interaction, which can be utilized more cleanly in all sorts of different types of game modes. If we created something that was too arcade focused, then that means the only thing that you could create beyond that would be arcade focused games. But if we create a realistic tactical shooter, well, you could take those same mechanics and you could create a zombie survival game mode, you could create a role play environment, you could really do whatever you want. And if you were to look at games like Arma and what the community has taken Arma and turned it into, there's all sorts of experiences that have nothing to do with military simulation that still benefit greatly from all of the features that Arma brings to the table because it is a military simulator. That is going to be the same concept for Operation Harsh Doorstop. Yes, the base game is a tactical shooter, but that's not what it is all about. And I think if people get too focused on those tactical shooter details, they're going to miss out on some of the cooler big picture opportunities that I think a game like Operation Harsh Doorstop is going to open the door to. For instance, look at Arma. Arma's weapon handling is not the sexiest. Yes, you can do a lot of cool things with it, but if you were to compare that to the weapon handling and animations from even Call of Duty, Arma is not a sexy first-person game, but it has still facilitated an incredible amount of community game modes and experiences that I don't think any of those other games could have facilitated. So, with that said, again, Operation Harsh Doorstop is totally a tactical shooter, and we want to make it the best tactical shooter that it can be, but that is not what the project is all about. And I think sometimes people think our focus isn't on those little details as much as they should be, but in my opinion, I think sometimes people are neglecting to look at some of the bigger picture stuff that we're focusing on that will probably have a much better long-term impact on the entire game. For instance, Steam Workshop support, which was a big thing for us, took a lot of time, and we definitely could have implemented a lot of more fine-tuned details regarding the weapon handling and stuff like that. But what is more important, Steam Workshop or having inspect animations for your guns? Obviously Steam Workshop. And that's how we're going to prioritize development going forward. But now that you have a good idea of how we prioritize development, I feel like it's going to make my next point be even more impactful, because one of the other complaints that I've seen is that we're releasing into early access in the next 2 weeks when maybe we should wait longer. I don't know how many years before the game is more complete prior to releasing into early access. And that is another thing that really confuses me. Operation Harsh Doorstop is by no means a fully completed game. There's lots of things that I want to complete. But at the same time, even in our current state of development, we actually have, I want to say, significantly more features than similar games to us had when they went into early access. And when a lot of people come into the forums or the comments section and they're comparing us to games like, say, Squad, and saying, hey, you guys aren't ready for early access, Squad has way more features than you all do. I would like to remind everyone, and I was there for the entire thing, when Squad launched into early access, not only did it not have anywhere near as many features as it does now, but I would actually say it was missing a significant number of features that we already have. The day that Squad launched into early access, they did not have vehicles. In fact, they did not have vehicles for a significant amount of time. I want to say maybe years after they released into early access. There were a lot of very critical things missing in the first version of Squad. They definitely didn't have Steam Workshop support, and they still don't have single-player support or bots, even though Beyond the Wire does for some reason. I don't really know what's up with that. So keep in mind, when Squad launched into early access and it was accessible to the entire world, not for free, for, what was it, $30, they didn't have a lot of the features that we had. And they were a multiplayer-only game. We are a game that has magnified optics. We have Steam Workshop support. Yes, we are missing vehicles, and hopefully we will get those in soon. But so were they missing vehicles, and they didn't have the things that we have in order to make the game playable when there weren't people online. I think that that gives us a significant advantage, and to have higher expectations of our development studio, which again, I remind you, is funded by donations, than a studio that was a fully commercial studio with a fully paid game, I think that's somewhat absurd. And that kind of goes back to the point that I made earlier in this video. I understand that we are a donation-funded team and there are limitations to what we can achieve. But at the same time, a lot of the examples that people are using to compare us to say that we're not making the same amount of progress as other studios are just not true. We have developed a significant amount for a game that is fully multiplayer and single player. And I remind you, creating a 64-player and above multiplayer game is levels of magnitude more difficult than creating a single-player game. And we have done that. Not only have we done that, I am fairly certain that we are one of the only studios to have accomplished this. The only other studios who I have seen accomplish this have $30 to $60 games or free-to-play games that are very heavily monetized and are rolling in hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. What we have done is rare, and we're giving it away for free, and we're asking for your help to make it better. I'm not entirely sure why other studios have gotten more praise for achieving less and asking for more than we have. But I do hope at some point people will hopefully shift their mentality and they'll realize what we've accomplished and what we're giving it away for. And not only will they hopefully have more appreciation for that, but you all will also see why it is worth it for you to support a project like this, either financially through donations or, even more importantly, just like with Wikipedia, by you coming into the community and helping to contribute by making the project better yourself. You look at Linux, you look at Wikipedia, you look at other community-developed projects that have very quickly overtaken their commercial competitors. And I promise you, I believe that this project has the same potential to do the same thing. Yes, it will take time. Yes, it will take effort, but we've already made a lot of progress, and I feel like we can show that. And I hope over the past couple of months, you all have seen why a project like this is so important, in the same way that Wikipedia is so important. Now, when Operation Harsh Doorstop launches on February 15th, it will be still at the beginning phases of what I think we all hope it will be. And let me define that very clearly. For those of you who play tactical games, I think that right now, Operation Harsh Doorstop is probably around the same level of playability and completion as a game like Insurgency Source, minus the very good weapon customization that Insurgency Source had. But again, that's something that we're hoping to add. I would say that on launch, the game will be fairly similar to something like Insurgency Source, and it will have the modability similar to something like Garry's Mod, or maybe even Ravenfield, and it will be completely free. That is our starting point. I know that we don't have jets yet, or tanks, or, I don't know, all sorts of other things that you could probably think of, but by God, we have a lot. And if we can launch a game that has all of the things that we already have, and you can host your own servers, and it's free, so you can have all of your community members come and play it with you, and you can make mods, and you can help us create all of the things that you want to see in the game. And you can maybe make the features you want to see, put them up on Steam Workshop, and if they're good enough, we will incorporate you into the team and make that an official part of the game. I think that process of making a game is unstoppable. And yes, I understand that there is more that we could put in the game in its current form, but I feel like if we continue on the path that we're on, there will be a point where, oh my God, we're going to have every single thing that you want and more. But it's going to be really frustrating if the entire time, until we get to that point, there's going to be people who are going to be angry because we're not better than every other game on the market that costs $60. Please, please see the potential of what this can become. I understand that some people are tired of hearing that from like a Kickstarter standpoint and stuff like that, but I feel like the difference between us and your run-of-the-mill, Kickstarter game scam is that we have a fully functional game. We have the same number of features, if not more features, than many other of your favorite games that asked for more money had when they launched into early access. And if people can't appreciate that, if people can't appreciate a free game that's made more progress than some of these fully paid games did when they came out in early access on Steam, then I don't know, man, that makes me really pessimistic about the state of the industry. But luckily, whether I feel pessimistic about the state of the industry or not, we're still going to be making this game. I just hope that you all are going to see what I see, and you're going to want to be a part of this as much as I have loved being a part of this, so that we can make this happen, as we already have been making it happen. That's basically everything I want to go over today. There is a lot more that I want to go over. There's so many cool things that I want to show you all that I think is really going to blow your mind in terms of what the community is building with the game already, in terms of the things that we're looking at using Operation Harsh Doorstop to create. I think it's going to be really awesome. But I just wanted to make this video to really address some of those bigger concerns and to kind of set the stage of what this game is meant to be on launch. So you all have a good expectation, not of just what to expect when the game comes out into early access, but what we're aiming for long term. I'm really excited about getting it out there. I'm really excited about being able to play with everyone and see what you all create. There's already been some incredible creations that I love seeing. Special Forces factions, completely new game modes, all sorts of crazy stuff the community has made with the SDK that we've already put out. And I mean, honestly, even at some point, I would love for this to become just my full content creation platform, even for my YouTube channel. You guys have seen I've already been creating YouTube shorts about Operation Harsh Doorstop, about the weapons that I'm researching and documenting in order to put into Operation Harsh Doorstop. All of that stuff is not only incredibly fun for me, but makes for great content. And I'm hoping that as time goes on, that is just going to grow and grow. All right, that's it for today. Thank you very much. I have actually a development meeting to go to right now that I am late for because I'm making this video, but I felt like this video was important to make either way. And I'll see you guys hopefully in the next one. All right, cheers.